It's real. It's real. You know the deal. You know the deal. Come on.
Hey, I'm Natalie, your co host of What's the Deal, a podcast powered by the Norfus Firm. At the Norfus Firm, we solve people problems and have the great pleasure of working with employers all around the world on HR and DEI strategies. So this is never seen before because we've never had a what's the deal behind the scenes situation going on. But the purpose of this episode is to really show you how we apply a lot of what we talk about on What's the Deal. As you can imagine, this is a tough time for folks who do DEI work. There's a lot going on, a lot of uncertainty around the future of the acronym DEI, and we're dealing with companies who are reacting and figuring out how to adjust to this new world we're in. So every Monday we have a projects meeting, and I think about what kind of icebreaker will get us started for this week, each week. Sometimes it's fun stuff like what's the last book you read and what was cool about it, and sometimes it gets a little bit deeper. And on this particular Monday, it got a little bit deeper because I woke up thinking, wow, we're dealing with a lot. And so I asked the team to consider what resilience means to them and how they're applying it amongst this sort of uncertain political climate and business climate. And so this is our team meeting. And because of that, it's raw and unfiltered. We didn't have the meeting with the idea of a behind the scenes episode, but it became pretty clear once it was done how important it was for us to share how we do things, because sometimes we can show you better than we can tell you. So tune in for this first ever behind the scenes episode of What's the Deal? All right, well then, Stephanie, tell us about what resilience means to you.
Well, okay, so if someone asked me what resilience means to me, I would probably just say it's the act of not only powering through whatever gets thrown at you, but also being able to like see something out of it, make it be worth something. And keep going. So yeah, it's just, there's a lot of crazy stuff, and I think not losing your mind in some weird times is very resilient, because it's very easy to get caught up in everything.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not just talking just now, but like now is a really good idea of like what you could lose your mind thinking about. And so keeping your peace, powering through, and just and hopefully taking something out of it to help.
And how have you applied that lately?
Well, again, trying not to get caught in the noise. I mean, we've only been here a week, so I was really hoping the noise would die down a little bit, as far as political the sky is falling noise. But just getting through that and knowing that, anyone who is really surprised with this is fooling themselves. And also there is a whole world for us to actually do as well. So I'm just, powering through. Also, my patience in not getting to the Bahamas sooner than I did. I was about to lose it then, but it's a very good lesson to learn that timing is everything, and it happens when it happens.
Woo! That last part is a whole word. We could have a whole conversation about timing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I thought that's where you were going to start with, because that was the most annoyed I've ever seen you. So,
It was so close. It was the part of it was so close and so far away. I just kept all the false starts kind of. But that's what I've taken away. I really just need to, it's time when it's time.
Yes. No, I love that. All right, Shantae.
I think resilience for me is when the bottom does fall out, or if you allow it to fall out, it's how quickly can you get back to that sense of like center. So in the past, it may have taken years, months, whatever, to find your normal again, right? But I think resilience and growing that or becoming more resilient is just, it shortens the time. So yeah, you may be thrown off because life happens, you get thrown off your square, right? But it's getting back on it. How quickly can you do that over and over and over and over again? So the time gets shortened. So that's what that means for me.
That is so cool and so true. So how have you applied that lately?
Well, it happened in in Akumal, where because of the space that I was in, I allowed myself to completely bottom out emotionally. Like it was fine. Like I allowed it. Like normally I don't. I'm always like, no, you have to hold on. You gotta, white knuckle it all the time. And it's like, no, fuck it. Just go ahead, crash.
Yeah, exactly.
Go down, right? Like what happened. And so that did happen, but the allowing that to happen didn't delay it. So it's like allowing myself to bottom out meant that the next day I felt better and then even better the next day. And so as opposed to trying to fight that bottom and then delaying it, which then delays being able to get back. So it took me 2 days to get back to normal as opposed to maybe 2 weeks or 2 months, right? So I think it's more of that, like just take things as they are, and then knowing that you have the tools to get yourself back to your normal. Yeah.
So I think a word you use there that is so important in a lot of times when you're dealing with like struggle is allowing, right? So I think it's that like when you resist it, it's so much harder. You just like try to push the feelings down or whatever the case may be is. So nice work.
Back up. I would say in this season that we're all in, that the I think this morning I was just thinking like tough times show you what you're willing to fight for. And I think it's as many others have said on this call, like taking the time to rest, to feel your feelings, to be angry, to be upset, to freak out, but also to find spaces of clarity of like, well, why am I upset? What am I freaking out about? What is it that I'm fighting for and that I don't want to lose? And then finding a space where you can engage and turn that energy into action or something that can help. And so the follow-up question of where I'm thinking about that in my own life is, we're planning this move and we're basically going to be on the front lines of watching all of this stuff go down, but I'm just wanting to be very intentional in this season of where has God called me to help and to be a helper? Where can I have rest? What is my space of making the grass greener around me? And to me, that also, like, part of me is like, I want a pitchfork, right? But also, I think just the act of being kind to other people right now is a revolutionary act. Caring for the person next to you, getting to know your neighbors, and helping people feel like I've got your back is what people need right now. So just not letting the resiliency and the lesson of resiliency end with you, but also helping others around you to be resilient and to use whatever is knocking them down or making them angry. Like, this is a moment for America, for us to wake up and be like, oh, these things that we enjoy, they could be taken away. And they're not, like, people fought for this, people in our own lineage fought for these rights. And so, like, I'll be damned if somebody's going to try to take them from me. Right. So, and I may not be the person filing the lawsuit. I may not be the person, like, speaking directly to the president, but me building community or caring for people or getting engaged in civic action or some way I can be a part of the solution. And that makes me feel like, okay, I've done my piece and I don't have to just spend all this time being worked up or stressed out. Yeah.
You and I talked about that a little bit last week, and it was, I loved your framing of at least kindness being revolutionary right now, because I think that's, it's in its simplest form, sort of what's needed, right? In a lot of what we're seeing. So definitely agree there. And, being able to hold space for people in a way that doesn't take away from you, I think is probably the name of the game, right now. One of my friends responded to something I posted, and she ended it with, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown, right? And so my response to her was, take a break. like, because she's like consuming so much of the news. And then she kind of wrote back saying, yeah, but no, because then if I don't, then like all this bad stuff can happen. And I can't do nothing. And I'm like, I'm not telling you to do nothing. I'm telling you to take a break for your mental health, right? Like taking a break is doing something. And I think that like we forget that sometimes. And so, for me, when I think about resilience, it's kind of like continuing to move forward, even when you have all the things that are trying to pull you back. I think that for me, though, I've actually, when I think about my relationship with resilience, it's been a little bit of how do I be less resilient? Because I've always taken on so much throughout my life of being responsible, being the leader, being the, putting myself in the front of everything and taking body shots that don't go to me. So I've been really working on like how stepping back is still a form of resilience, but it means like not so much I have to be in the forefront all the time. Um, and that's allowed me to like the slowing down has allowed me to see like if we just think about the Norfus Firm in particular, we've made so much progress over the last 6 years. But if I'm always like in another idea and another idea and another idea, like I'm not able to see like how much work we've done and then how much I've ignored myself in that process. So as y'all have heard probably bits and pieces, I've been going through emotional exorcisms lately because I'm allowing myself to feel the feelings finally. And there's times that it sucks, but most of the time I'm like, I'm so glad I'm doing it because you can feel like yourself get further than you were before. And all of our data work allows me to be like, okay, this is how these things go together. And so I'm definitely really grateful for that process. And I guess all the other resilience helps me stick to it here because I can tell you right now, the whole feelings thing is not my jam. So um, the having to push through that is important though. So appreciate everyone for sharing. One of the things that Shantae and I were really like big about when we were thinking about KPIs for this year is also just making sure we're monitoring our emotional load. And, our work itself is already kind of hard, but life itself is also hard. So we will likely be moving just to like a once a month quick pulse check from the surveys that Gusto has, just so we can make sure to check in. And of course, you're always welcome to come to me. And I'm sure Shantae feels the same way, if you need time or space to process anything. And yeah, we'll just continue to kind of monitor and do our best and adjust accordingly, because really there's no rush to any of this, the way things are going. So, we'll just do our best, which is going to be more than most. So, I think we'll be just fine. All right. Before we move over into
Something just came up, Natalie. Can I know it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to do a quick, I've been gone. So as we're getting into this, I would love, just for my own benefit, at least just to kind of get a sense of where everybody is given all of this and the work that we do. And I'm sure you all, because you all are in DI, just like obviously we are because we work together. Are you getting hit up? Like, how are you feeling about all the noise, all the everything? Like, what's, again, in the spirit of resilience and resiliency, right? Like, what is coming up for you? How have you been managing all of this kind of static that's been in the world around this work? Just curious. Whoever wants to start.
Well, I know for me, anybody who knows anything about me knows that I work here. And so it's always been like, oh, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? Like, well, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. Like, it doesn't, I just try to tell them, like, I don't think it changes what we're doing. I think it just makes it more important that we're out there doing what we're doing. But yeah, people see DEI, and for me, people see like, oh, Stephanie does that job. Now, whether they know anything about what I do is a totally different conversation. But the words that they hear are, oh, Stephanie won't have a job anymore. And yeah. So, but I don't know. I feel it's business as usual. It just seems like now it's even more important than it was before. So like, I don't know. I try to just deal with it like that.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations. A few people have reached out to me, but I don't think it's been something where like none of this is new. We've seen this trend since last year. Like when I started doing DEI work, like what, I guess 8 years ago now, even when we hit 2020 and all of a sudden everyone was involved in DEI or interested, at that time I was having conversations about, well, we know this is not going to be forever. We know this is a temporary interest. And so I don't think I've ever like had a sense of, oh, the world is going to move towards DEI and this is something that like is going to stay. Like everyone's going to be chill and cool about this. Like, you know, as a Black woman, like I'm not expecting or not shocked when the powers that be are anti things that help folks in the margins. So I when talking to people about what I do mention DEI because it's important to me, but I also talk about it as HR because I want people to understand that DEI is a part of what we do. It's not the thing, and that I don't approach DEI in our business context or just in general as like DEI is the thing. Like DEI is an approach. DEI is a philosophy. DEI is a science, and it informs all the things that we're doing that could also be called all these other things. Like I'm a workplace culture person who strongly believes in taking an approach through DEI to do my work. So the people that I have spoken to about it, I've kind of said that like we have plenty of work to do, and also just don't be shocked. Like DEI is still going to be being done. It's just going to have probably a different name, and we're going to keep moving forward. But also, while I have you, this is what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean, and so that we're all on the same page. So yeah, it's I haven't felt afraid or, anything like that.
Especially when you're over there busy coding stuff. So you're like,
I know, I'm like,
I'm working.
I see people like firing off in the surveys all the time. So like resistance and opposition to DEI concepts is nothing new, and like it doesn't feel weird, but I understand if like the first time you see or hear that, like it can be jarring of like, oh my gosh, this is what people think. But also again, those of us who are from marginalized groups, like hearing people be more outward about things, it's like, yeah, I knew that people thought this. I'm frustrated because when he's in office, people feel more bold to say these things, but it doesn't mean that they didn't think about that when Biden was in office,
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's your piece around peace and peace around you could understand that if it's the first time you're hearing it, it's jarring. It's kind of what's helped me sort of reframe a little bit, because I would say the thing that's been most frustrating for me is the hysteria from people that you expect to be very quote unquote smart and learned and right. And one of my dear friends from law school has like an executive role at the Social Security Administration, and she posted yesterday like basically she's been quiet because she's holding space for like people on her team, but like, can y'all please stop with the misinformation because it's making it worse? Like that's how I feel about it. Like people who I went to law school with, or who are lawyers and who, you give too much credit to because they have those titles. It's like, will you please stop? Like, this is so frustrating. Like this is the spinning that's been hard for me because it's coming from places I wouldn't have expected. I expect people to spin. I expect people to forget this is how he was the first time around. I expect people to think, even though he said this is what was going to happen, they thought for whatever reason it wasn't going to happen. Like that kind of stuff makes sense to me on some level. And also if you don't know about it, your reaction is not going to be the same as us because we've been seeing this for a long time, like well before, ever since we had our anti-DEI and don't say gay laws. So, I mean, For us, this is just, you know, it's more intense right now because of the character who's promoting it, but it's not so different. But it's definitely hard because you're just like, is anybody thinking? So that's been the thing where I'm like, that's cool, just bring it in. Don't consume a lot of the headlines. Shantae
It
and I were
also,
talking.
okay. I was just gonna say it also gives you an opportunity to give people, because I know for me, I get freaked out when I don't know how to fix something or there's no logical path, right? Like the news is going to share like Trump is trying to remove birthright citizenship, but they don't always immediately share, but it got blocked by the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
then
gonna
people
get
are like, it's
blocked
like
over
when the
and over.
hurricane happened in Miami and it's like Irma, like destroyed Miami. And then they never came back to show like, oh, we rebuilt, it's fine now. So like it also gives you an opportunity when people freak out to you to be able to share, oh, this is what the plan is for Trump. He wants people to feel chaotic so that they won't fight back. So the best way to fight this is to remain aware, but also to step back and realize that this is a strategy. And then it's
Right.
like, oh, okay, that helps me understand. And so it gives an opportunity to turn the lights on for people too.
Yeah, and I mean, I had this whole conversation with Leah last week, but I would just want to put out there for everyone as you're thinking about this, to the extent it's not top of mind, a lot of what's being spewed is unlawful, right? So, like, meaning all this, like, you know, the most basic thing was, you know, him trying to freeze all federal spending. Well, legally, he has no authority to do that, right? Which is why his White House told him to stop, and why a judge is telling him to stop. And most people don't know that, right? Most people have no idea the extent of the president's power, like technically, and especially one who talks very loudly and confidently, like he has endless power. So the things that happen behind the scenes are lots and lots and lots of lawsuits, which is what's going to happen now. And the reason why you're seeing action so quickly on some of these, where like already something is enjoined, is that people are filing temporary restraining orders, right? So they're asking for a quick resolution, saying basically if you don't do something, the public's going to be harmed by this. So I suspect there'll be a lot of those lawsuits that'll take whatever time they take to, you know, move their way through the court system, and that means a large amount of what he's sort of signed as executive order are meaningless. They're symbolic, of course, of his position, but I think that's the part where I get really upset with my lawyer friends that are hysterical, is that they should know better, right? Like we should be using our voices to say, and by the way, it's not enforceable. And by the way, a judge has already done that. But just to keep in mind too, of like when people are spinning, it's like this is his word is not the last word on this.
Checks and
Greg,
balances.
say it again.
Checks and balances.
Yeah.
Is there
Right.
any way that we as TNF can be part of that conversation to get that word out there? Because I think like, yeah, the moment something happens, people don't immediately have another voice saying, by the way, this is illegal. Let me tell you why. This is probably what I think is going to happen, or the lawsuits that may get filed. Yes, in the meantime, it holds things up, but like, I think if people heard that voice, that might be an opportunity for us.
Yeah, I think a good place for us to start, Reagan, Shantae, would probably just be a few statics about like, you know, like sort of how that there's more to it than meets the eye kind of thing. The only reason, Leah, I wouldn't go too much further than that is like the employment law firms do a great job of that, you know, of because I would have to then be studying all these cases and laws that I don't have the capacity for at the moment. But I do think that, you know, it's something to think about in terms of uh actually I had asked Danny for the newsletter we're coming out to quote some of these law firms around like the employment firms that are talking about like some of these things. So I think we can spread the word that way. We don't really have the capacity to be the speaker on a lot of this stuff because I don't feel like reading a lot of cases because I got a lot of other work to do. But I do think Shantae, Reagan, like some kind of social spotlight on read beyond the headlines. I've been posting that myself personally of like it's kind of like media 101, that the headline is really in designed to pull you in and then that's it for a lot of people. Like they don't read past that. So I definitely think our voice should be used in that way. And to the extent we can include like backlinks to, the law firms that are doing all these legal analyses. That makes sense too. And what about you?
I'd gotten a couple people to hit me up, but I've largely ignored it just because I was on vacation. I refused to let it disrupt my vacation. But I mean, the messaging as I get back to it is just stay the course. It is what it is. We still have work to do. We still, these are concepts. This is a lens. This is a practice. It's an approach. It's not one group over another. It's not any of these things, and that people are just incredibly misinformed. And to this point, this is an opportunity to educate. And so that's really the approach that I've been taking with it. But it's annoying, sure. Especially folks who, it's like, y'all are really like loud and wrong about a lot of this stuff. Like you don't even know what you're talking about. And that part really it pisses me off. The strong and wrong, just it's really it's one of the
On
things
both sides though. I mean,
Yeah,
it kind of goes to your point around, I love the word that Shantae uses to sort of what she's trying to get to in terms of equanimity. It's like, it's so imbalanced because it's like my frustration is probably higher right now with people on the left spewing all this misinformation because you're like, this is why they say we're snowflakes or whatever we're supposed to be, I guess, because it's like, what the heck are you guys talking about? I mean, Leah and I talked about this last week of this nonsense of like you automatically followed the president. No, you were following that handle. They just transfer it. Like no one was forcing you to follow anybody. And why are all of these 20, 30, 40-year lawyers that know better, like, and I didn't do this. And it's like, just unfollow, right? Like, this is not even anything to talk about. Like, now there's like headlines about it because now Meta's trying to say, no, we didn't make you follow anybody. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
And just the simple fact too that like I think people are like, oh, everyone wanted this and like half of America voted for this. They didn't.
they didn't.
64% of people voted. And if you look, like I ran the numbers yesterday, 30, I think it's like 31% of people voted for Donald Trump. 31% of people that could vote in the United States voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
Yes, a lot of people didn't vote, and
anything.
that's frustrating. But just saying, like 70% of people did not vote for this. So there is a majority of people who are also like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Okay, so, and even some of the DT people are like, wait, what? People are starting to wake up.
Yeah, the fact that more people did not vote than voted for him, like that's another, like 36% of us of America did not vote.
A third. That's crazy.
A third. More than voted for Kamala, more than voted for Trump, sat at home, which is, to me, is really, that's disheartening because you don't care enough about yourself, about your community, about us as a whole, about ourselves on the world stage. Like there's so many levels of you just didn't care at fucking all, not even for yourself, that now you can't buy eggs. Like that didn't, like, all the way down. Like
Now you hear the fuck around and find out. They're all like, we're all about to find out, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But like,
this is the group project. This is why I hate group projects.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I mean about like, this is what's going to
picture.
show you what you have to fight for. Because like now you thought you could just sit this out and like, oh, well, we know what we got last year. Now there are consequences. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, so I think the bigger picture here is that we've been abdicating our civic duties for decades, right? So like if you think about this, I think it goes back to like, why did we learn how to square dance and we don't know how to like balance checkbooks, right? Like our educational system in the US, I think, is so much different than other countries in that we do not spend as much time really not only educating about your civic duties, but like how, like Leah, sort of what you were saying earlier of like how we got these rights, right? So it's sort of like this, we're lied to our whole lives that like America's the best country on the planet and we don't really have anything to worry about. So we always operate from this sense of false security, right? Like we haven't, unfortunately, had any sort of like, we don't live in war times every day. Certainly people who live in rough neighborhoods in the US would disagree. So I don't mean to minimize people who do live in violent every day here, but I'm saying it's not the same when you don't see people like armed guards every day and those types of things. So we just thought it was sweet, basically. So people have not been voting for a long time. I think it's just now we're just like people are just like whatever, because there is so much misinformation that if you're not informed to begin with, it can be really difficult to know even where to go or where to start. And so it's like I'll just go to work every day and deal with this price increase or that whatever thing, and it's unfortunate. And I think the ways in which we turn that around are like, what these young folks are hearing and learning, and teaching them about, how to find good information, because they'll be able to vote a lot of them are going to be able to vote during the midterm elections, including my kid. So, it's some of that, but it is disheartening because I think people just generally don't know and generally don't care. And mainly we've been sort of lulled into a sense of complacency in my view. I think it's just it's every other country I go to, I'm like, we are so unaware of our own country. When you go to other countries, people are so aware of their country, like the history, the way the government works, and you come here and people think that President Trump can pass a law by himself. It's like that's not it. You're like, oh God. So it's like that's unfortunate. So yeah.
Thanks for that, everybody. I know it ate up some of our time, but I needed to understand like kind of like where as a group we were with all this. So
yeah, I think we should probably just have a different time to go over the timelines, because I don't think that's a very nice transition. So Stephanie, let's just find some time for us to all connect on timelines. Just on that note, Shantae and I found, and Leah and Stephanie, and obviously Reagan, you weren't there just because it was about work that you're not doing, but we thought the time that we spent in early January to do the timelining was super helpful for us to get on the same page, down like a little bit more granular about when stuff is going to be turned in and making sure the meetings are set so we're not scrambling. And so we want to see how it goes to continue that practice so that we can control what we can control, right? Which is at least trying to plan for stuff, and then it's easier to pivot if things don't pan out. So you can obviously expect time for that. And I'm trying to think if there's any other small admin thing to be thoughtful about. Yeah, I think the only other thing is that we will be starting a new project, which Reagan, it's everyone knows, I guess, because we've been working on it, but it's going to be a trade association for theater tech. So people who work sound or stagehands or kind of everything behind the scenes that helps theatrical and live productions move forward. So we're going to be doing a mini assessment with them, which I'm looking forward to because we've been wanting to do 60-day assessments forever. So it'll be fun to see how this works out. It'll be fun, Leah, to see how your prerequisites / diagnostic questions, how they land. Shantae, what we're gonna do is just do the questions, even though they're already a client, do the questions, the prerequisite questions to help with like weights and stuff like that. So we'll just need to invite Ben to that kickoff call. But yeah, so that's the news. Shantae and I are going to Key West on Thursday because we're delivering training on Friday in Key West to a company that me and Stephanie had done an investigation for. So they asked us to do training. It's possible that they'll need more help too. Stephanie, if we could just make a note, they have it. Scott's gonna check with their PEO to see if they have an engagement survey stuff built in, because Cloverleaf, so I was saying that he should do that first to see if they can do an engagement survey, and then he might want to take a look at incorporating Cloverleaf. And then Shantae and I are going to be doing follow-up with UFC. Shantae, both of the people I emailed, their emails bounced back. So I don't know if that's because I have the wrong emails. In fact, Stephanie, I could probably also just message Keisha on LinkedIn just to see if I can get her email address that way. But we are trying to run down the UFC people that we're trying to do two things with UFC. run down the people we presented to just to see if there's stuff that we'd be able to submit for job-wise, and then continuing the conversation with the woman who runs supplier business diversity program we went to, because she's trying to figure out how to better talk about it. And we want to be able to kind of leverage, hey, do you want to have a bigger call? So me, Shantae, and Ben are going to chat with her in a couple weeks to try to continue the conversation there. So yeah, and there's lots of other stuff in the pipe, and I'm sure once our PR company gets a hold of some leads, then that's going to also change the game in terms of what we're doing. So me, Natalie, I'm allowing the spaces to happen. So when meetings cancel, I'm not filling them because I'm trying to make sure my cup is filled for like when we inevitably get busier. Because we did get an email about another investigation. Oh, we have another investigation. Yeah, as of Friday.
Yeah, and then you have a discovery call with. Did you see that? It's a company called Supernal, and they are building flying cars.
Are
like
they?
Literal
Is that what they're doing?
flying cars. Yep, comes off the ground, and it's jets and shit. So, you'll be meeting with them. They're the one. They're looking for a DEI coach for one of their junior executives. Their project manager, project operations managers, and he doesn't deal well with women. He talks over them. He doesn't listen to what they say. If a man says it, then he'll say what a great idea it is. It's all that type of shit. So, but yeah, you've got that.
But there's a lot of women over here who can help with that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's today. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
that's right up Natalie's alley. She can't wait to bite into somebody like that. A pit bull. Get him on.
I'll be using your term, arrested development. When did you first start hating women?
Exactly. Do you have issues with your mother, sir, that you should probably be talking to someone about?
Lord. So yeah, anything anyone else wants to bring up that they're seeing, that just anything, since we're all here?
I was going to post in the chat, the National Council of Nonprofits. They're one of the groups that filed a lawsuit against the executive order halting like the federal grants. But they do a lot of research for nonprofit work. But they made this really great resource pretty much immediately after the executive orders came out, with how how they would impact different types of nonprofits. I know we don't technically do a lot of work in the nonprofit space, but we do sometimes, and there are some businesses also that cross over. So I thought it was really good. It's a chart, so super easy to read, and they're coming out with more and more resources to help people navigate during this time. So
please share, because that actually reminds me, Thursday, I had a call with the executive director of the Beverly Hills Bar Association. I've spoken for them before. I'm going to speak again for them in March. And the reason why I was talking to Belinda is that she was on a call with all these other association executives. So like, bar associations, medical associations, like those are all nonprofits that, basically represent voices of certain professional trades. What I didn't realize is that the executive order impacting DEI, like, also purported to speak about local bar associations as being covered by it, and which is bizarre by itself. But what was more bizarre is that the reactions that she was hearing, because most of the voluntary trade associations that she was on this call with are bar associations, meaning that their board members are mostly all lawyers, and they all like freaked out. And like Belinda's like, the very first thing is, how would the federal government have jurisdiction over state bar associations? Like, they wouldn't. So she's like, why are like boards of lawyers, like, why is everybody panicking? But she was saying to me, like, do you have something that you're not creating something from scratch that kind of shows what you guys do? Because I'd love to be able to put you in front of all these people since they're dumb. And I was like, actually, I showed her our UFC thing, and she's like, no, that's perfect. So Stephanie, we do need to just stay in touch with her, because I'd love the opportunity to get on one of those trade association calls and talk the talk and, see what comes out of it. Because she was just saying that obviously a lot of these people obviously need like better primers on what DEI is and all of that. So I think there's going to be like those types of opportunities pop up for us. But thanks, Leah. I think if we have that resource, and I think we should just definitely if you see stuff, share it. Don't assume we've seen it. I think we want to be careful, obviously, not to share the salacious stuff, but more of that research, like what's the objective truth stuff, I think is going to be really helpful. How's Bahamas? It looks pretty back there.
Fucking amazing. It's pretty beautiful all the way around.
Oh, so, God.
Yeah, the water is just.
Oh my gosh, it's so blue.
So blue, and like so many different colors of blue, and so you can see down to the bottom, and yeah, the water is warm. It was a little chilly yesterday, but once you jump in, you're like, yes, I love it. So I bet the water in Mexico was probably pretty ideal too, right, Shantae?
It was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah. It was just a little bit of a chill, but not enough to be like, I can't be in here. But once your body settles in, so refreshing. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. So
it's funny.
Life is good.
It's funny because yesterday I was like, I really want to be in the sun, and I was thinking about like, oh, I could go to the beach, and I was just feeling so tired. I'm like, it was nice because I was like, desire does not always have to be acted on, which is like, because I would have about to be like, you're so lazy, like you live down the street from the beach. And then I had to remind myself that I did yoga in the sun yesterday, so I actually did get to experience being in the sun, and we can desire something and not have to chase it down every single time. That's why I'm so damn tired now. Like, okay, just lay down. Even after I texted you, I was like, I'm just gonna add to my Amazon order. I'll just put more groceries on. It's fine. I have enough food to eat for today. Like, it's fine. I don't need to go anywhere. I did walk to CVS for a snack because I had been in the house all day, but that was just so I could experience the air outside. But yeah. All right, Shantae, can you stay for a few minutes? Everyone else, I hope you have a great day. Leah, I think we're checking in later with you, and we'll see you all later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Here it is. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership. That's the deal when you know what you're dealing with.